The last time Marcus Kang looked at me, he told me I was dead to him. That was 14 months ago. So when I saw him standing 20 feet away in Central Park, with his new fiancé on his arm and my twins, his twins, sleeping in the stroller beside me, I did the only thing I could. I kept my hands from shaking, and I prayed he wouldn't look down. It was a Saturday in late September, the kind of perfect fall afternoon where the light turns golden and the whole park feels like it's holding its breath. I'd taken Noah and Nora out for some air. They'd been fussy all morning, teething, cranky, the whole deal. And I just needed to sit somewhere quiet and let them sleep. I found a bench near the lake. I was scrolling my phone, half watching a video, half zoning out, when I felt it. That pressure in my chest. You know that feeling when someone's watching you, and your body knows before your brain does? I looked up, and there he was, Marcus Kang, 6'2", sharp jaw, tailored coat, walking like the world owed him a runway, and on his arm, a woman I recognized instantly. Vivian Seoul, tall, beautiful, dressed like she'd just stepped off a magazine cover. His new fiancée, the woman who replaced me. For about 3 seconds, I forgot how to breathe. My whole body locked up. Every instinct told me to grab the stroller and run, but my legs wouldn't move. And then it was too late, because he saw me. His steps slowed, then stopped. I watched his face go through something. Not shock exactly, more like his brain was trying to reject what his eyes were seeing. He said something to Vivian. She frowned. He pulled his arm away from hers and started walking toward me. Not fast, not slow, purposeful, like the way he walked into every room he ever owned. By the time he stopped in front of me, I'd pulled myself together. Barely, Naomi, he said. Just my name, nothing else. Marcus. My voice came out steady, too steady, the kind of steady that takes everything you've got. We stood there looking at each other like two strangers who shared way too much history. His eyes hadn't changed, dark, sharp, always calculating, but there was something underneath, something unsettled. You're back in New York, he said. I am. For how long? That depends. He studied my face the way he always did. Not obvious about it, but reading everything. You look well, he said. So do you. And then his eyes drifted down to the stroller, to the two small figures sleeping under their blankets. His gaze stayed there 1 second too long. I saw the shift in his expression. Tiny, barely there. But I knew this man. I'd memorized every version of his face. He saw something. He didn't ask. Not yet. But I could feel the question forming. Behind him, Vivian was walking over, curiosity written all over her face. Marcus. She corrected herself with a light laugh. Who's this? He didn't look away from me. Someone I used to know. Vivian's eyes flicked to the stroller, then to me, then back to Marcus. I watched her do the math. I see, she said, and the temperature dropped about 10 degrees. Well, I said quietly, gripping the stroller handle. If there's nothing else. I moved around him. He stepped aside. No resistance, no drama. But as I passed, Noah shifted in his sleep. The blanket slipped just enough to show his face. His full, round little face, with Marcus's jawline, and Marcus's eyebrows, and Marcus's exact same expression when he slept. I didn't look back. Not once. But my hands were trembling so hard the stroller was rattling. I walked until I was sure I was far enough. Then I stopped behind a tree and closed my eyes. Of all the ways I'd imagined this moment, I never thought it would hurt this much. I need to take you back, because if you don't know what Marcus Kang did to me 14 months ago, none of this will make sense. I met Marcus at a charity gala in Manhattan. I was there for work. I did marketing for a mid-size firm, nothing fancy. He was there because his family basically funded the event. The Kangs were old money, Korean-American dynasty types, real estate, imports, private equity, the kind of family where everyone has a title and nobody smiles at dinner. Marcus was different, or at least I thought he was. He was intense, yeah. but he was also funny when nobody was watching. He'd text me at 2 in the morning about random documentaries he couldn't sleep through. He remembered every little thing I ever told him. When my mom passed during our second year together, he flew across the country and sat with me for 3 days without saying a word. Just sat there. That's the man I fell in love with. We got engaged after 2.5 years. His family was not thrilled. I wasn't Korean. I wasn't wealthy. I wasn't strategic. But Marcus didn't care, or so I thought. 1 week before our wedding, everything exploded. Marcus called me to his family's house. When I walked in, his mother was there, his uncle, 2 of his business partners, and Vivian So, sitting in the corner like she'd been invited to watch a show. Marcus threw a phone on the table in front of me. On the screen were text messages. Intimate, explicit, between me and some man I'd never seen before. Photos too, screenshots of conversations that never happened. Evidence of an affair that didn't exist. Explain, he said. One word, cold as ice. I tried. God, I tried. I told him I'd never seen those messages. I told him I didn't know that man. I begged him to look at me, really look at me, and see that I was telling the truth. But he wouldn't. His jaw was set. His eyes were dead. His mother was shaking her head. And Vivian was watching me with this look that I didn't understand then, but I understand now. Satisfaction. You're dead to me, Marcus said. Get out. I left that house with nothing. No ring, no explanation, no chance to defend myself. Just the sound of a door closing behind me and the whispers of people who'd already made up their minds. 2 weeks later, sitting on the bathroom floor of a motel in Queens, I found out I was pregnant. I stared at that test for 20 minutes. I laughed first, then I cried. Not because I was scared. I was terrified. But because I knew. I already knew that baby would have his face, and I was going to have to love that face for the rest of my life without falling apart. Turns out, it wasn't 1 baby. It was 2. I gave birth alone. No family, no partner, no one holding my hand. Just me and a nurse named Gloria, who let me squeeze her fingers until they turned white. When the doctor said, twins, a boy and a girl, I laughed and sobbed at the same time. Gloria didn't judge me. She just handed me my son, then my daughter, and said, "You're gonna be just fine, Mama." I named them Noah and Nora, and I promised myself, right there in that delivery room, that no matter what Marcus Kang had done to me, these babies would never feel unwanted, not for 1 single day. For 14 months, I kept that promise. I moved around, worked remote, saved every penny, and built a life from nothing. No help, no safety net, just me and my kids against the world. And I actually believed I was safe. I really did. Then the envelopes started showing up. The first envelope showed up 3 days after the park. I came home from work, picked up the mail, and there it was. No return address, just my name written in neat handwriting. Inside was a photograph of me from 14 months ago, standing in the foyer of the Kang family house the day I was accused. I was mid-sentence in the picture, mouth open, eyes wide, clearly begging someone to believe me. At the bottom, someone had written in black ink, "Some things should stay buried." I stood in my kitchen holding that photo and felt the floor tilt under my feet. Someone knew where I lived. Someone had kept this picture, and someone wanted me to know they were watching. I told myself it was a one-time thing, some kind of sick message. I threw it away, locked the door, checked on the twins, and tried to move on. But it wasn't a one-time thing. 2 days later, my babysitter, Mrs. Chen, this sweet retired woman who lived 1 floor below me, knocked on my door looking pale. "Naomi, I'm sorry," she said. "I can't watch the kids anymore." "What? Why?" "Did something happen?" She wouldn't look at me. "Someone came to see me. They said things about you. I don't want trouble." "What things? Who came?" But she just shook her head and closed her door. I stood in that hallway with Noah on my hip and Nora pulling at my shirt. and I felt something cold settle in my stomach. This wasn't random. After that, things started falling apart fast. My office computer crashed, and I lost a full day's work. IT said it looked like someone had accessed it remotely. My supervisor started giving me looks, the kind that said, "We're watching you." Then my landlord called. "There's been a complaint," he said, sounding uncomfortable. "About noise." The children. They're babies. They cry sometimes. That's what babies do. I know. But the building has standards. Maybe you should start looking for another place. I hung up and sat on the floor while the twins crawled around me. My hands were shaking. Every part of my life was being dismantled, piece by piece, and I couldn't see who was pulling the strings. Then came the envelope that broke me. I came home from work on a Thursday evening. The door was locked. I'd had the locks changed after the first envelope, but inside, on the kitchen table, was a new one. Someone had been in my apartment while I was gone, while my babies had been there with Mrs. Chen, back when she was still watching them. I opened it with numb fingers. Inside was a photo of Noah and Nora sleeping in their crib, taken from inside my apartment. My knees gave out. I sank into a chair and couldn't breathe. Someone had stood over my children while they slept and taken a picture, not to hurt them, to show me they could. That night, after I put the twins down, I sat on the couch with every light on and cried for the first time in over a year. Not the loud, dramatic kind, the silent kind. The kind where your whole body shakes, but no sound comes out because your kids are sleeping 10 feet away and you can't let them hear you fall apart. I didn't sleep. Every creak in that apartment sounded like a door opening. Every shadow looked like someone standing there. I kept getting up to check the locks, check the windows, check the crib. By morning, I looked like a ghost. I thought about calling the police, but Anne saying what? Someone left me photos? Someone got my babysitter to quit? I had no proof of anything. I had no idea who was doing this, except somewhere deep down, I did. I didn't know who was behind it, not for sure. But when I found out, it wasn't the enemy that broke me. It was the fact that Marcus already knew, and he hadn't done a thing to stop her. The truth came from Mrs. Chen. It took me a week to get her to talk. I brought her soup. I brought her flowers. I sat outside her door with the twins and just talked to her through the wood until she finally opened it. "Please," I said, "I need to know who came to see you." She looked at the twins, then at me. Then she sighed. "A woman," she said. "Young, very pretty, very expensive clothes. She came with a man. She told me you were dangerous. She said you were involved with bad people and that watching your children put me at risk." My chest tightened. What did she look like? Mrs. Chen described her perfectly. Tall, Korean, hair always perfect, smile that didn't reach her eyes. Vivian So. I sat down on Mrs. Chen's couch and pressed my hands against my face. Of course it was her. The woman who'd sat in that room and watched me get destroyed. The woman who'd taken my place before my seat was even cold. She wasn't just Marcus's fiancé. She was the one who'd been hunting me since I stepped foot back in New York. And that brings me to the day Vivian came to my apartment. Not through a hired stranger this time. In person. It was a Tuesday. The twins were on a blanket on the living room floor. I heard a knock, opened the door without thinking, and there she was, Vivian So, standing in my hallway in a cream-colored coat, smiling like she was dropping off a casserole. "Naomi," she said, "can I come in?" I should have slammed the door. I should have screamed at her, but I was so stunned that she had the nerve to show up at my home that I just stood there. She didn't wait for an invitation. She stepped past me, looked around the apartment. Small, cluttered, toys everywhere, and smiled the way rich people smile when they're pretending not to judge. Then she saw the twins, and she walked over to them. "They're beautiful," she said softly. And before I could move, she bent down and picked up Nora. Every nerve in my body caught fire. "Put her down." Vivian held my daughter like she was examining a piece of art. She tilted her head. "She has his eyes," she said, looking at me. "That must be hard for you." knowing he'll never believe they're his. I crossed the room in 2 steps and took Nora out of her arms. My hands were shaking so bad, I almost dropped her. I held both twins behind me like a wall. Get out of my house. She straightened her coat. I'm not here to fight, Naomi. I'm here to help you understand something. Get out. Marcus is mine, she said. Her voice didn't change. Still light, still pleasant, like she was discussing dinner plans. He's been mine since before you, and he'll be mine long after you give up and leave again. These little visits to New York, this little game you're playing, it ends now. I'm not playing any game. I came here for work. She smiled. Then go work somewhere else, because if you stay, I promise you, things will get so much worse than a few envelopes. She said it like that, casual, like terrorizing a single mother was just an item on her to-do list. I didn't move. I didn't cry. I stood there holding my babies and staring at this woman who had destroyed my life once and was trying to do it again. Get out, I said for the last time. And if you ever touch my daughter again, I'll make sure everyone in Marcus Kang's world knows exactly what kind of person you are. Her smile flickered just for a second. Then she turned and walked out. The moment the door closed, my legs gave out. I slid down the wall with Noah and Nora in my arms and sat on the floor, rocking them, whispering, "You're okay, you're okay, you're okay," over and over, until I wasn't sure if I was talking to them or to myself. I thought Vivian was the worst thing that could happen to me. I was wrong. The worst thing was what Marcus did next. I found out later, much later, that Marcus had started investigating the moment he saw me in that park. He'd sent his assistant, Mr. Park, to find out where I lived, where I worked, who I talked to. He'd gone to the hospital where the twins were born and pulled records. He'd done the math on the timeline. 14 months since he threw me out, the twins born 11 months ago, and realized the numbers lined up too perfectly to ignore. And then he did something I will never forgive him for. He got a DNA test without my knowledge, without my consent. He used his money and his connections to access my children's medical records and run a paternity test behind my back. Let me say that again so it sinks in. He tested my babies. The babies I carried alone, delivered alone, raised alone, without ever asking me, without even having the decency to look me in the eye first. He showed up at my apartment on a Friday evening. I almost didn't open the door, but something about the way he knocked, not demanding, not loud, just steady, made me look through the peephole. Marcus Kang was standing in my hallway, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His tie was loose. His eyes were red. He looked like a man who'd just had the ground pulled out from under him. I opened the door, but didn't step aside. What do you want? We need to talk. There is nothing to talk about. There is everything to talk about. The twins were behind me on their blanket. Noah made a sound, that little babble he does when he's curious, and Marcus's eyes went straight to him. I watched his face change, not the cold, calculating mask he always wore. Something underneath it, something raw. Can I come in? He asked. His voice was quiet, almost careful. I don't know why I let him in. Maybe I was tired of running. Maybe I wanted to see what he'd do. Maybe some stupid part of me still wanted him to fight for the truth, even if it was way too late. He stepped inside and stood there, looking at the apartment, the toys on the floor, the bottles drying on the counter, the life I'd built without him. Then he looked at the twins. Noah was staring up at him with those big, dark eyes, Marcus's eyes, and Nora was chewing on a stuffed rabbit, completely unbothered. "Naomi," he said. "I know." "You know what? They're mine." The room went sideways. I actually grabbed the counter to steady myself. "Excuse me? I did a DNA test," he said. "I know they're mine, both of them." I stared at him. For a long moment, I couldn't speak. Not because I was surprised. I always knew this day might come, but because of the way it came. Not through a conversation, not through trust. Through a test he ran behind my back like I was a case he was building. "You had no right," I said. My voice was shaking. "You had no right to touch their lives." "I know." "No, you don't know. You don't get to." You don't get to throw me away, call me a liar, destroy everything I had, and then sneak around behind my back, testing my children like they're evidence in one of your business deals. He didn't defend himself. He just stood there and took it. Vivian forged everything, he said quietly. The messages, the photo, the witness, all of it. She set you up. I laughed, not because it was funny, because it was exactly what I'd been screaming 14 months ago. And nobody listened. I believed her, he continued. I believed what I saw. I thought you betrayed me, and You made a choice, I said, cutting him off. You didn't make a mistake, Marcus. You made a choice. You chose her word over mine. You chose to humiliate me in front of your family instead of pulling me aside and asking me like a human being. You chose wrong. His jaw tightened. I could see the muscles working. Yes, he said. I did. And while you were choosing wrong, I was throwing up every morning in a motel bathroom. I was working 2 remote jobs while pregnant with twins. I was lying in a hospital bed with nobody holding my hand while they cut me open because Nora was breech and they had to do an emergency C-section. His eyes closed. When he opened them, they were wet. I gave birth to your children alone, I said. I heard them cry for the first time alone. I named them alone. I brought them home alone. And every single night for 11 months, when they wouldn't stop screaming and I was so tired I couldn't see straight, I sat on the floor and rocked them and told myself I could do this because no one was coming to help me, because the one person who should have been there told me I was dead to him. He went down on one knee, not like a proposal, like a man whose legs couldn't hold him up anymore. I'm sorry, he said. I will spend the rest of my life trying to make that right. Don't you dare promise me a lifetime, I said. You couldn't even give me trust. We stayed like that, him on the floor, me standing over him, for a long time. I wanted to hit him. I wanted to scream. I wanted to collapse. Instead, I just felt empty. The kind of empty that comes after you've been carrying something too heavy for too long, and someone finally sees it, but it's already crushed you. And then his phone rang. He answered. I watched his face go from broken to cold in half a second. Where? He said. Then, how bad? Then, I'm on my way. He looked at me. Vivian knows I found out. She's not taking it well. Mister, Park says she's escalating. Escalating how? He didn't answer that. I need to move you somewhere safe tonight. No, Naomi, please. The last time you made a decision about my life, I ended up alone and pregnant in a motel. I'll decide what's safe for me and my kids. He looked at me like I'd hit him. Good, but he was right, and I hated that he was right. The next afternoon, I was walking home from the grocery store. The twins were with my coworker, Lisa, who'd basically adopted us at that point. I was alone for the first time in days, carrying bags, thinking about nothing. When I heard it, a screech of tires, loud, close. I turned and saw a black car swerving straight at me. Everything happened at once. Someone grabbed my arm and yanked me backward. I fell hard on the sidewalk. The car missed me by inches. I felt the air from it and slammed into a parked vehicle. People screamed. Someone was shouting. The car reversed and took off. A stranger was holding my arm. You okay? Hey. You okay? I nodded. I think I nodded. My whole body was vibrating. I sat on that sidewalk, shaking so hard my teeth were chattering. That night, Marcus's people confirmed what I already knew. Vivian had sent someone to hurt me, not scare me this time. Hurt me. I called Marcus. First time I ever called him since everything happened. Not because I wanted him, because I was terrified. She tried to kill me, I said. Silence on the other end. Then, very quietly, I know, I'm ending this tonight. And he did. Within 48 hours, Vivian Seo was arrested at JFK, trying to board a flight to Seoul. Fraud, conspiracy, attempted assault. The charges stacked up fast. Marcus had handed over everything, every record, every connection, every trace of what she'd done. When the news broke, I was sitting in a safe house Marcus had arranged, Watching it on my phone while the twins napped, I saw them walk her out in handcuffs. She was wearing a white coat, dark sunglasses, chin up, still performing. Right before they put her in the car, she looked directly into a camera and said, "He'll come back to me." I turned off my phone and stared at the wall. It was over, but over didn't mean healed. The weeks after that were strange and quiet. Marcus asked if he could see the twins. I said yes, but on my terms. He could come twice a week. He couldn't stay long. He couldn't touch them unless I said so. The first few visits, he just sat on the floor and watched them play. He looked so awkward, so out of place. This man who commanded rooms full of powerful people, sitting cross-legged on my carpet while Noah threw blocks at him and Nora ignored him completely. One evening, Noah crawled into his lap on his own. Marcus froze. He looked at me with this expression I'd never seen before. Terrified, grateful, completely lost. I was standing in the kitchen doorway, and something in my chest ached in a way I couldn't explain. He started changing after that, slowly, in ways I didn't ask for and barely noticed at first. He cut ties with the people who'd enabled Vivian. He showed up when he said he would. He never pushed. He never assumed. He just kept showing up. One night, after the twins were asleep, I found him sitting on my couch, staring at his hands. I sat down next to him. "You don't get to fix this fast," I said. "I know." "You don't get to buy your way back into our lives." "I know." "And you don't get to assume I'll ever love you again." He swallowed hard. "I know." I looked at him for a long time. The man who had destroyed me. The man who had knelt on my floor and cried. The man who sat through Noah throwing blocks at his head without flinching. "But," I said quietly, "some part of me never stopped, and that part is very, very tired." He didn't say anything. He didn't try to hold me. He just sat there. And for the first time in a long time, the silence between us didn't feel like a war. Months later, we were sitting on a bench in Central Park, the same park where everything started again. The twins were toddling around in the grass, falling, getting up, falling again. Marcus was watching them with this look on his face. Soft, unguarded, human. "Do you still love me?" I asked. "Yes," he said. No hesitation. "That's not enough." "I know. I don't know if I can ever forget what you did." "I know." "Then why are you still here?" He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Because I'd rather spend the rest of my life earning something I might never get than walk away and know I didn't try." I looked at my children. Noah was trying to eat grass. Nora was bossing him around already. They were beautiful and loud and exhausting. And mine. They'd always been mine. And maybe, there was room for him to earn a place in this life we'd built without him. Not as the man who destroyed me, not as the man who saved me, but as someone willing to sit on the floor, take blocks to the head, and prove every single day that he'd learned how not to break the people he loved. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I said, stay. And for the first time in a very long time, I meant it. Now I gotta ask you something, because this one's been eating at me. If you were in my shoes, if the man who destroyed your life came back, proved he was wrong, and spent months trying to earn your trust back, would you have told him to stay? Or would you have walked away for good? Because honestly, some days, I still don't know if I made the right call. Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story hit you in the chest the way it hit me living it, go ahead and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.